When Donald Trump tried to corner Barack Obama with accusation after accusation, he was certain volume would win over truth. But what happened next revealed something far more powerful, that real leadership isn't measured in decibels. It's measured in strength, clarity, and conviction. The year is 2025. Trump is back in the White House, and if there's one thing his presidency has never lacked, it's drama. His words have always been sharp, his claims bold, and his challenges headline, ready. But on this night, he was about to push the tension to a whole new level. The cameras were rolling. The crowd buzzed with anticipation. Trump stood center stage, his voice rising like a storm. And then, with his unmistakable blend of showmanship and brute force, he turned his aim toward the man who once held the same office, Barack Obama. Their rivalry wasn't new. For years, the two men had exchanged jabs in speeches and interviews, a cold war of words simmering beneath the surface. But now, it wasn't cold, it wasn't quiet, it was live. And it was raw. Trump leaned in, his voice sharp, slicing through the air. Obama, you left this country broken. Weak borders, struggling businesses, a failed healthcare plan. Your decisions failed America. The audience shifted uneasily. Some erupted in cheers, others froze in silence. But Trump wasn't satisfied. He wanted more than applause. He wanted a confrontation. He threw down the gauntlet. Come on, Barack. Debate me here. Debate me now. The American people deserve the truth. I know you can't handle it, but I'm ready to expose it. The challenge didn't land like just another line in a speech. It hit the room like a thunderclap. A dare delivered on a national stage. This was pure Trump. Not a methodical policy discussion, but a made-for-television spectacle. He never just debated, he dominated. He didn't simply argue, he accused, pointed, provoked, and overwhelmed until the spotlight burned on him alone. And tonight, he wanted Obama in that same spotlight, forced to parry every charge in front of millions watching at home. Murmurs swept through the crowd. Whispers rippled from seat to seat. Would Obama actually accept? Could the two presidents face off here, unscripted and unfiltered, in the battle so many had wondered about but never really believed would happen? The stakes were enormous. Two leaders, two legacies, two radically different styles. On one side, Trump, loud, unrestrained, unpredictable. On the other, Obama, calm, measured, a man known for precision under pressure. This wasn't just political theater. It was the clash of opposites, the kind of showdown people imagine in what-if scenarios, but never expect to actually see play out. The cameras zoomed closer. The tension was electric. Every eye turned toward the man who had yet to respond. Would Obama ignore the taunt and let Trump's words fade? Would he fire back with equal fury? Or would he take a breath, harness that famous composure, and slice through the storm with deliberate, cutting calm? Trump believed he'd set the perfect trap: refuse and look weak, accept and get drowned out by noise. It was classic Trump, part challenge, part theater, part gamble. But the gamble was enormous, because this wasn't just Trump versus Obama. This was Trump challenging history itself. He wanted to rewrite the last decade, to stand on stage and declare, I am the stronger man. I am the better leader. I am the one who saved America. The atmosphere felt less like politics and more like the opening bell of a heavyweight fight. The challenge had been thrown. The nation was holding its breath. And now, all eyes locked on Barack Obama. Would he take the stage? Would he let Trump shape the story? Or would he somehow, in his own way, flip the script entirely, silencing the thunder without ever raising his voice? No one in that room knew the answer yet. But one thing was certain. History had just been set into motion. And when Obama finally opened his mouth, everyone there knew the room would never be the same again. The stage was set, two presidents, two legacies, two clashing styles of power. The audience leaned forward, gripping their seats. Millions were watching from screens at home, the tension so heavy you could almost hear every heart pounding at once. Then Trump took the microphone. He didn't pause. He didn't circle around the point. He came out swinging with the full force of his trademark energy. His voice rose, sharp and uncompromising, As he targeted Barack Obama's record, Obama's healthcare plan, he thundered, left millions without coverage. Families suffered, businesses struggled, and ordinary people couldn't afford the doctors they needed. The words hit like punches. Blunt, relentless. Designed to wound, Trump didn't slow down. He pivoted quickly to another attack. Obama's energy policies destroyed jobs, closed factories, and tied America's hands. He cared more about regulations than about hardworking Americans. Gasps broke out in the crowd. Some roared with approval. Others whispered nervously. But Trump was far from finished. And the border, broken, chaotic, out of control, illegal crossings everywhere. Who solved it? I did. I made your families safe again. I put this country first. I turned the page on his failures. Every sentence was sharper than the last. His words weren't careful arguments. They were thunderclaps meant to overwhelm. His body told the story just as forcefully, fingers jabbing, hands slicing the air, his face lit with raw conviction. This wasn't a debate to him. It was a storm with one target, Barack Obama. Trump's strategy was unmistakable. He wanted to bury Obama under a wave of accusations, so many, so fast, that there would be no room left for him to breathe, let alone respond. It wasn't about explanation or proof. It was about force, dominance, rattling his opponent until the pressure cracked him. And the audience could feel it like static in the air. Would Obama rise and match fire with fire, or would he stay motionless, caught silent beneath the flood of scorn? Eyes darted toward him, desperate for a sign, a raised brow, a clenched jaw, any flicker of reaction. Cameras zoomed in, searching for that crack. But Obama sat perfectly still, calm, unreadable, eyes fixed forward. Trump saw the silence. He pressed harder, louder, sharper. I saved this country from disaster. I brought strength where you left chaos. That's the truth. Even if you can't admit it. The crowd exploded. Cheers, boos, gasps, the entire hall shaking with sound. Trump lifted his chin proudly, soaking in the electricity of the moment. This was his arena, high energy, high drama, his voice filling every corner, the spotlight locked on him. By his own reckoning, he had just landed the opening and most powerful blow, but deep under the noise, something else stirred, because while Trump unleashed wave after wave of attacks, Obama hadn't moved. Not a twitch, not a crack in his composure. He was waiting, watching, calculating. For those who recognized his style, the silence wasn't weakness, it was a warning. And the louder Trump climbed, the more palpable the anticipation became. What would happen when Obama finally spoke? Would he wither under the storm, or would he do what he had so often done? Let the chaos exhaust itself before cutting through it with precision. The storm had raged long and loud. Thunder after thunder, Trump's voice lingered in the air, still booming in echoes. The crowd was restless, surging between cheers and mutters, caught between admiration and unease. And then, suddenly, his voice stopped. Silence. Every head in the room turned toward Obama. Every lens locked on his face. Every heartbeat seemed to pause. The storm had spent itself, and all that remained was the moment that would decide everything. Would Barack Obama sit frozen? Would he rise with fire equal to Trump's? Or would he do the unthinkable and change the entire atmosphere with a single measured response? The pause stretched on, heavy and electric. Suspense filled every inch of the room. And then, slowly, Obama leaned forward. His voice was calm, even unshaken. "Mr. Trump," he began. His words deliberate, clear. "Let's base this on real facts, not just loud words." It was as if the air itself shifted in that instant. No anger, no rush, just a steady, controlled tone, almost surgical in its precision. And then came the proof. "When I took office," Obama said, "this nation was in the grip of the worst economic crisis since the Great Depression. Millions had lost jobs. Millions had lost homes. Families lived in fear of what tomorrow would bring." The room went silent. Obama's voice carried with quiet weight, every sentence dropping into the air with undeniable force. "We worked, we fought, And we created more than 11 million new jobs. We lowered unemployment from 10% to 4.7. Those aren't opinions, those are facts. He didn't raise his voice, he didn't need to. Every word hit harder because of the calm that carried it. We passed the Affordable Care Act, he continued steady as stone. For the first time, over 20 million Americans gained health coverage. Families could see a doctor without the fear of losing everything they owned to one illness. That meant children receiving care. That meant parents sleeping at night without wondering if a hospital visit would be the end of everything. Faces in the crowd tightened, some in awe, some in disbelief, but none unmoved. The air felt like it was holding its breath. Obama pressed on, his words crisp and undeniable. We invested billions in clean energy. Wind and solar grew faster than ever before. That created jobs, that gave us cleaner air, that pushed America forward, not backward. He paused just long enough for the facts to settle like stones sinking into water. Then his gaze sharpened directly on Trump. And on the border, yes, we strengthened security. We reduced illegal crossings, and we respected human rights while doing it. We didn't just shout about the problem, we worked on it, we made progress. The room was hushed now. The storm of Trump's shouting had been washed away, replaced by Obama's calm precision. Like steady rainfall cleansing the air. And then came the strike, sharper than anything he'd said yet. Leadership, Obama said, his tone cutting now, is about facts and actions, not blame, not distraction, not shouting for attention. Mr. Trump, your way has been to divide and deflect, but America needs unity. Progress wasn't perfect. No president's is, but results don't lie. It landed like a blade, not thunder, not rage, precision. With calm alone, Obama didn't just defend himself, he flipped the entire encounter. He reminded everyone that leadership wasn't about being the loudest voice in the room, but about delivering results that touched real lives. Trump had tried to bury him under noise, to corner him, to paint him as weak. Yet it was his very calm that turned Trump's stage into Obama's platform. The crowd could feel it. Something had shifted. Words that were quiet had suddenly carried more weight than all the shouting before them. Even those who had roared at Trump's every line couldn't deny the gravity behind Obama's steady proof. And this was the irony. It wasn't soaring gestures or crushing volume that made the impact. It was calm truth. And in that silence, it sounded louder than anything Trump had thundered. Obama leaned back, composed, his point made, and in that moment the entire room understood. This debate had just turned. The words didn't fade when he finished. They lingered, thick and immovable, hanging over the hall like smoke. The same crowd that had just shaken the room for Trump now sat in frozen stillness. You could hear it. The faint hum of the lights, the click of cameras straining to capture the weight of the moment. This was no silence of boredom. It was silence of impact. The kind that tells you history has just pressed down its mark. Obama's calm had sliced through Trump's storm like a blade through tangled rope. The effect was unmistakable. The energy in the room shifted. Eyes darted between the two men. On one side sat Obama steady and sharp. On the other stood Trump, flushed, restless, unsettled, adjusting his stance as if the ground beneath him had shifted. On one side stood Trump, restless, rattled, voice chasing the moment. On the other sat Obama, composed, unbothered, as if he had been waiting for this exact moment all along. For once, Donald Trump, the man who filled every gap with sound, who feared silence like a void, was caught in it. And he couldn't stand it. He lunged for the microphone, his voice raised, almost desperate to snatch the room back. Talking about the past won't fix today, he snapped. I'm delivering fast results. I'm putting America first. What this country needs is action, not excuses. But something was different. The words didn't land with the force his base had come to expect. They sounded hurried, defensive. A shell of the usual sound and thunder, because the room had just heard something it couldn't unhear. Obama hadn't just spoken, he had proven. He hadn't just claimed, he had shown. And against that calm clarity, Trump's voice, though loud, suddenly felt smaller. The crowd felt it instantly. Those who cheered Trump minutes earlier now sat quieter, their faces etched with thought. A few even stole glances at one another as if to say, "Wait, maybe Obama makes sense." The silence that followed Trump's words wasn't the silence of authority, it was the silence of doubt. He tried again, pushing harder. "We don't need excuses, we need action, and I'm delivering it." But the rhythm was gone. He wasn't leading anymore. He was reacting. And in the brutal rhythm of debates, that shift can be fatal. Obama didn't budge. He didn't need to. He had already laid out his case like a steady foundation. His composure now said more than any words could, "Facts don't need to shout to be heard." For the first time, Trump's voice sounded like it was chasing control, chasing momentum, chasing the spotlight that had slipped away. The audience felt it too. A single clap broke the tension. Then another and another. It wasn't an explosion. It was sharper, more controlled. Applause that belonged to Obama's calm truth. Each clap echoed like confirmation. Each ripple made Trump's jaw clench tighter, his frustration more visible. His voice rose again, but higher volume couldn't change the fact that something had shifted. The storm he brought in, the thunder, the lightning, the chaos, had begun to feel not like strength, but like noise. The silence after Obama's words, the awkward rush of Trump's defense, the quiet but undeniable turning of the crowd, it all told the same story. The momentum was gone. As cameras swept across the audience, faces revealed what words didn't need to. The choice between the two leaders was already sinking in. Trump had shouted first, Obama had spoken last, and the room had chosen which one carried weight. When the applause finally tapered off and the lights softened above, it became clear that what unfolded wasn't just a debate. It was something deeper. It wasn't just healthcare or jobs or borders. It was about what people expect from leadership. Trump had shown his version, loud, aggressive, full of fire and blame. He wanted the earth to shake beneath every sentence. And for a moment, it had his words were flung like heavy punches in a prize fight. But then Obama answered, not with booming theatrics, not with a competing storm, but with something quieter, calm. Facts, proof, and results that couldn't be denied. In that choice, something remarkable had happened. The storm of noise gave way to silence. The silence gave way to thought, and thought gave way to respect. Obama had reminded everyone watching, those in the room and the millions at home, that leadership will never be measured by the volume of your voice. Leadership is measured by the weight of your actions. Obama never claimed perfection. In fact, he acknowledged flaws. But alongside his admissions, he showed something deeper. That real progress had been made, that millions of lives had been changed, and that results matter far more than accusations. Trump's style, for all its thunder, suddenly looked fragile, because volume can rattle a room. Yes, but only truth can hold it. That's why Obama's words landed the way they did. They didn't just push back against Trump. They drew a line between talking about leadership and proving leadership. And that's the lesson that lingered long after the debate lights dimmed. In any clash, you don't always need to be the loudest voice. You don't always need to fight anger with more anger. Sometimes the strongest weapon is calm, steady truth. That night, millions of people saw it unfold in real time. Two former presidents, two stark approaches. One built on fire, anger, division, fear. The other built on clarity, facts, progress, reason, unity. And in the end, it wasn't the man who thundered loudest who made the lasting impression. It was the man who spoke with precision and clarity. Think about history. Time and again, we've seen leaders who thrived on distraction, who divided, who overwhelmed with relentless noise. But history rarely remembers the loudness. It remembers the ones who stood still, who told the truth, who backed their words with proof. That's why this moment hit so deeply. It wasn't just a win on a debate stage. It was a reminder. A reminder that leadership isn't about tearing others down. It's about lifting people up. That progress, even when imperfect, is still progress. That calm can silence chaos. So when Obama looked Trump in the eye and said, leadership is about facts and actions, not blame and shouting, it wasn't just directed at Trump. It was aimed at every ear in the room and every viewer at home. It was a challenge to all of us to think harder about the voices we trust, the leaders we respect, and the kind of future we want to build. Trump had dared Obama, fully convinced he could expose him, rattle him, and dominate the spotlight. But in the end, it wasn't Obama who was exposed. It was the difference itself, the gap between noise and truth. The debate ended, the cameras shut off, the stage emptied. But the echoes remained, because long after the shouting fades, people don't remember the volume. They remember who brought proof, who delivered facts, who spoke with honesty. And on that night, it was Barack Obama.